Resume. This is a big one. I know that any casting director that I've talked to, especially if you're a new actor, they're obviously going to see your they're going to see your headshot. They might see a demo reel, but often they're looking at a resume. And I know that casting directors, most of the ones we've talked to, prioritize training is what is the section. Like they might skip over what you've actually been in and go straight to training. So that's why I would say I would preface all of this talk with, don't worry about any of this if you haven't already invested in classes and training and you haven't been taking acting classes, been a member of a studio, done a conservatory. It is a professional career. It is a craft and a learned technique. It's not just learn words and say words. There's more to it than that. And a casting director, if they look at a resume and there's no training there, they're going to wonder, is this person professional? Can they cast you and throw you in front of a multi-million-dollar crew where it's $100,000 an hour? And if you're doing things that are unprofessional or blowing takes or whatever it may be, then you make everyone look bad. You may get fired on the spot. So, anyways, go through your resume. It should be one page. Should have all your contact info on there. Should have your agent's info on there if you're represented. Normally it's broken down. TV, film, commercials can be on there. Sometimes people put commercials by request, or some people use the word, if you've got a lot in your career, you might put select TV and film, select commercials, and then you just put like your most recent or your biggest name ones. And again, you put what you got. Like if you're 40 years old now, I wouldn't be going back and be putting the high school play that you were in when you were 13 years old.
I mean, I was amazing in Fiddler on the Roof, but whatever.
I'm sure you were playing an old man, an old Jewish man. And then training and special skills too. So again, have all of this update, but I would say with a huge emphasis on training, and that training should be ongoing. I don't think you should be looking at your training as like, oh, this is the training I took when I was in university and that's it. So be constantly looking. If you're looking to optimize and upgrade your marketing materials every quarter or every 6 months, you should also be thinking, how can I upgrade my skills and my training every 3 to 6 months, which means you're taking a new voice class, you're taking a new movement class, you're taking a new specific skill class, like you're learning the box, or you're learning to ride horses, or you're learning firearms, or you're learning how to fence, or you're learning stage and screen combat. All of these extra things that you can put on your resume that then are going to make you a stronger actor on the day, and or just flat out help you book the job to even get there, because they see, oh, this person has the training that's required. So be specific. It's a little bit of name dropping sometimes with your instructors too. Like certain instructors are more well known, so make sure that if you've trained with well known people and well respected people in the industry, make sure their names are there, because you'll be vetted through that training. Where I give you the example of improv training and comedy training, Second City being one of the biggest places. Like there's Second City, there's Upright Citizens Brigade is another one, or here in Toronto there's a group called Bad Dog. But Second City is kind of like I've seen agents and casting directors, when they're like, they see Second City on a resume and they're like, oh, this actor can do comedy. And I mean, that remains to be seen. But if you've got something, if you have done that training, then with a world famous, prestigious comedic institute like Second City, you want to make sure that's front and center so that it's on there. So make sure that your training is front and center, and then update things. So, and I know a lot of people slip on this, where you just did something huge. Maybe you had the biggest role, you're recurring on a series, but you haven't updated your resume in a year and a half. People are looking at that, and them not seeing it, or them seeing it, might be like, oh shit, he was on that show. I love that show. Or I know the director on that show, or I know the casting director for that show. So if they liked him or her, then it's good enough for me too. So a lot of this is that weird thing of sort of, once you're in the club, you're in a club a little bit. So make sure.
And it also comes back to what Tom Todoroff says. No one owes you anything in this business. They want to pay you for your talent, for your ability to deliver when it matters the most on a $100,000 an hour set or whatever it is. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep things up to date. And again, yeah, training. I know every agent and every casting director, if you're wondering like how to get an agent, have the training section of your resume. Like you can get away with not much, like, oh, I did some student films and some indie stuff. But then if your training shows you've done a conservatory program and you're a weekly member, a monthly member of a studio, and you've taken this casting director's workshop and this other works, like all these things, then they're like, oh, this person is learning or growing. They're professional. They invest in themselves. That speaks more than 20 IMDb credits that are things that they've never heard of anyways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Also, I will offer one small piece of advice that I learned when I was first starting out. Make sure that when you are submitting your resume by your through email, that you're not using Microsoft or Google folders or something like that. Sometimes they change formats depending on the other person's computer. Always send your resume as a PDF because it's like a picture. So it won't change when they open it.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah. What else was I going to say too? Oh yeah, just formatting. Look it up. Ask, like, if you have an agent, ask your agent. They often have templates. If you have actor friends, ask to look at them. Google it. It should be clean. It should be readable. Sometimes less is more. So if you're trying to jam everything in there, but then as a result, it's just all text, then that's overwhelming to even look at. So there should be some spacing and some blank space in there as well. Some margins, some spaces between the sections as well. Yeah. Just so it's like, it's got to be legible, and it should be also aligned too. Like, yeah, if everything's not aligned and it's just a jumble of stuff, it's going to be impossible to read. You know this when you look at documents, or sometimes you get an email from someone and it's just like one paragraph with no punctuation. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to read this thing. No. It just looks like the rantings of a crazy person. So don't have your resume look like the rantings of a crazy person. Have it look like professional. And if that means you need to invest time and energy, or there's also courses and little workshops out there that people offer on crafting an actor resume, and you can find those too. Or you ask for help, or you ask for your agent. But again, it's a first impression type situation. So, and it's very helpful too.
Yeah. And never, and like you said, never be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
People will always be there to help you.
Yeah. And update them. Like I talk about 3 to 6 months, but if you just book something, put that in there right away. Like, put that on there immediately. Don't wait. Be like, oh, I update my resume.
Well, you should probably wait till it comes out. Except if it's like if it's a movie or something.
Debatable. I mean, debatable, I guess. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you could be cut from it, I suppose, too. So,
yeah.
But that's also debatable. I mean, if you really want something and you'd be like, I was just cast in this, and if you're able to like legally say that, I know if there's NDAs and things like that, you might not be able to announce that you were in something the day you were in something.
I guess we'll talk about that when we get to social media.
Right. But it's also with some of this stuff, it's like, I mean, with the exception of breaking an NDA where you're legally going to be responsible, it's your career. So it's like, if you need to trumpet that you were just cast in something because you're going to parlay that heat into another booking, then I would say be doing that. Like, you want to be like, don't hide the fact that you were just cast in something massive because you think you're going to ruffle little feathers. I'm not telling you to break an NDA or to break a confidentiality agreement, but you got to do the things that you need to do business-wise. And if that means you and your agent need to tell every casting director that you were just cast in something else, then that heat can bring you multiple bookings, and that momentum can be a big deal.